Today we have a talk from the ULTDC podium on Google Meet, also on the Google Meet, on the Theosophical Symbols for 12:05 p.m. with our study of contemporaries of apparitions. Sunday, September 8th, we'll continue our online studies on Google Meet with the key to Theosophy next Sunday, 11 o'clock. The declaration of ULT. The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of Theosophy, without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the Theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with distinctions or differences of individual opinions. The work it has at hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is a dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of Theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a true realization of the self, a profound conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists wherever and however situated, the similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor offices, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among Theosophists in the furtherance of unity. In regard to Theosophists, all who are engaged in the true service of humanity, without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no call or sect, yet belongs to each and all. Fundamental propositions of Theosophy. We use these, we keep these in mind whenever we're talking about whatever subject on the secret doctrines or on nature's laws. The first fundamental is on deity, the unity of all existence, the rootless root of all that was and is and ever shall be. It extends to beyond the range of human comprehension and can only be ignored by human expression. It is beingness rather than being, and is thought of as a great breath in one reality. It is the dynamic energy that might be linked to that small voice that wells up within each individual soul, that consciousness that should be our guide. Spirit matter, soul, life and body, unembodied. What people generally call God or deity is an aspect of life, the omnipresent principle which visibly functions in the atom as in the cosmos, and which abides as a self and part of every creature. Another aspect of life is law. The laws of God, the laws of nature. It would be more accurate to speak of God as law. God, like self, are not different from law. They are law. The spirit of the universe also surrounds all and is within all. We eternal progress have the opportunity to become gods, or one with the absolute, sustained effort. We honor the gods as superior beings to emulate, not as beings outside of ourselves. The second fundamental is on the law that brings out an analogy between the processes of nature and the cosmos and the individual man. Day and night, life and death, sleeping and waking, karma and reincarnation, man's law principles, disintegrated time, and nature uses them again with their various inputs from past uses to form new human principles. The same process takes place in disintegration and formation of worlds. If there is a potential exchanges of atoms correlating and changing their combining equivalents, like the perfect flower dying in order to grow into a perfect fruit. Man himself punishes and rewards based on his deeds. As above, so it is below. The third fundamental was on evolution. The whole order of nature is progressively walking toward a higher life in the cycle of the incarnation of necessity. No spiritual booty or divine soul can have an independent conscious existence before the spark from its essence has passed through every elemental form and has acquired individuality. First by natural impulse, from the mineral to plant, and then up to the lower animal, and then up to the human stage. Thereafter, after the human stage, we progress by self-induced and self-devised effort checked by karma, up to the holiest archangel, the dynamic ruler. Each entity must have won for itself the right to becoming divine through self-experience. The physical evolves gradually from the spiritual, mental, and psychic. Elementals are all future mentals. No one has ever reached adeptship in one embodiment. Each man has within himself the spark of an adept and can evolve into an adept through self-induced and self-devised methods aided by masters of wisdom to the extent allowed by karma. Our devotional reading is from the Voice of the Silence, starting on page 59. The more thou dost advance, the more thy feet pilgrims week for week. The path that leadeth on is lighted by one fire, the light of daring, burning in the heart. The more one dares, the more he shall obtain. The more he fears, the more that light shall pale, and that alone can guide. For as the lingering sunbeam that on the top of some tall mountain shines, is followed by black night, when out it fades, and so is the heart light. When out it goes, a dark and threatening shade will fall from thine own heart upon the path, and root thy feet in terror to the spot. Beware the second of that lethal shade. No light that shines from spirit can dispel the darkness of the benevolent soul, whereas all selfish thought has fled therefrom. And that the pilgrim saith, quote, I have renounced this passing frame, I have destroyed the cause. The shadows can as effect no longer be. For now, the light's great light, the final war between the higher and the lower self has taken place. Behold, the very battlefield is now engulfed in the great war and is no more. But once thou hast passed the gate to Shanti, step the third is taken. The body is thy slave. Now for the fourth, prepare the portal temptations which do ensnare the inner man. Ere thou canst never nearly go that goal, before thy hand is lifted to upright before the fourth gates latch, thou must have mustered all the mental changes in thyself. Explain the army of the thought sensations that subtle and insidiously creep in one basket within the soul's bright shine. And if thou wilt not be slain by them, then must thou harmless make thy own creations, the children of thy thoughts. Unseen, unpalpable, that swarm around the humankind, the progeny and heirs to man as discernible spoils. Thou hast to study the formless and descendant full, the fullness of the human voice. O fearless Esther, look deep within the well of thine own heart and answer, knowest thou self the power, O thou perceiver of external shadows. If thou knowest none, then thou art lost. And now for today's talk, the Theosophical Symbols.
Good morning to everyone. Today we will have a deeper dive into the Theosophical seal that we probably all can see with our eyes closed. But what does that actually mean? Like before preparing for this talk, the students sort of thought that I know what the different symbology is. Now, at the beginning of this talk, I want to say that I probably will take another month to prepare. And in a way, the idea came to my mind to maybe even have talk on each symbol and study each symbol separately because they're all so deep. Before we dive into the symbology of the Theosophical seal, I would like to talk a little bit about the symbols overall. What are symbols? And how they're different from non-symbolic ways of communicating. So symbol is a knowledge, information condensed in a very brief format that's supposed to act on us not only from the intellectual standpoint, but more associative. So we can all look at the symbol and associate with the different meaning of the symbol. There is one interesting saying, I believe it was by Hall, about the symbols. He said, symbol changes its meaning according to the level of intelligence upon which the interpreter functions. So from Theosophical standpoint, we can say that the symbol changes its meaning depending on the depth of Theosophical knowledge and understanding a student possesses. So one can look at the symbol and see just the surface of it, and somebody who is really practiced in the Theosophical concepts can see further depths to it. Then the other beautiful saying about the symbols is that symbols, this is by Manly Hall, symbols are keyholes to doors in the walls of space, and through them man peers into eternity. So symbols are something that gives us that entry point, that little view into something that is beyond our understood reality. So those are the keyholes to peek into the unknown. We have devised symbols as a humanity since the beginning of time. And in a way, all symbology is divided in two different groups. One devised by humans, and the other set of symbols are basically a universal symbols devised by nature itself. And it is the Pythagorean theory that dives into the symbology of universe and nature, because the symbols of the geometry of the shapes were not created by humans. They exist in the universal shapes. So the Pythagorean concepts were basically going to explain the symbols and the numbers from the standpoint of the meaning of the universe. Now, aside of that, there are some universal symbols, such as very early language, and the early language was conveying basically pictures of what people saw. So the cave drawings may portray a snake and a fish and an animal and imply hunting or eating or nature at large, but it was basically what people saw, and they condensed in the symbols that later became language. So there are some symbols that are universal across humanity, and I would like to touch on a few of the symbols because the Theosophical Seal contains a few of those symbols that are universal to all religions, to all cultures. One of the symbols is a point. Point is always source or origin. So we often see the point. So point is something from what everything emanates. It's the source of origin of whatever we perceive or want to explain. And it's universal across religions and across cultures. The second symbol is a circle. So this symbol also seen in different cultures and religions, and it's basically signifies field of manifestation. So something manifested that has a boundary. So circle is a boundary around field of manifestation. And when we look at the circle from the Theosophical standpoint, it is a field of manifestation in time and space. So this is our known universe in time and space, and this is the boundary around. And again, the point is the origin of manifestation, the one from what everything emanates. The third symbol that I want to touch on that is more or less universal is a cross. You can draw a cross like a Christian cross, you can draw a cross in the middle, you can draw a cross you can draw a cross that is has this bended legs. So when we look at the cross with the one of the lines closer to the top, this signifies when associated with Christian religion. When you look at the cross that is more in the middle or that has a circle above, this is a symbology of the Egyptians, Ankh. And when you look at the cross that is in the middle and has this bended feet, this is the Hindu cross and the symbol in also in Sanskrit. So we have these different crosses. What do crosses symbolize? Like in Christianity, we associate it with the death of Christ, with crucifixion, with resurrection. When you look at crosses across religions and cultures, cross symbolizes a man. It is matter. So it is the man in the physical. So the material side of nature and the human body. That's the cross. So now we have three symbols. The point that is origin, the boundary of manifestation in time and space, and the cross that is a human being. With this knowledge, I would like to proceed to the Theosophical Seal, and we will examine each symbol in Theosophical Seal. So it's important to know that there is a total of 7 symbols. So probably not accidental. So there are 7 symbols in the seal. And the very first one is the, I don't want to call it a word, but it's also a symbol, the Om itself. So at the top we have Om, spelled as of 3 letters. And this is, there is an entire article that we can read about the Aum and symbology of it. But in short, this is the unity manifesting in 3-fold. So this is the first principle. So basically, this is the unknown, the omnipresent, the ever-existing, all that is. And it has 3 letters, and you can see there is 1, 2, 3, A-U-M, so A-U-M, and there is a 3, I don't want to call it stages, but this threefold nature of A-U-M, and that threefold nature is the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, these 3 stages of not the creation, but emanation of preservation and of destruction. This is the absolute expressing itself in one that also emanates from it and also returns to it. So the A in Om, A is the Alpha, is the Aleph, so it's both from the Christian and the Hebrew. So it's A is the emanation, it is the beginning, it is the emanation of the all existence of all universes from the first principle. U is the preservation of the existence, and M is the closing sound, and this is the Shiva, this is distraction to return to the end. So it's the full cycle of emanation, preservation, and completion. And the next symbol right underneath, you can see, is the whirling cross. And the whirling cross is also in Sanskrit called swastika. And this is also very, very interesting symbol. Basically what you see here, and I'll separate it. Not very good at drawing. But there are several things to note in it. And we'll examine all of them. So it is a cross in a circle. And when we look at the swastika, we'll often just see the swastika, but don't pay attention to the circle. But we talked about earlier about the circles, that they're very important as the symbols. So we see swastika in the circle. So there's a cross within the circle. And as we know, the circles are the boundary of manifestation. But before we go that, I wanted to examine the word itself, swastika. Swasti means welfare. Stu is well, and asti it is. So it is that is well. So swastika actually means a welfare, well-being, something that is great. And it is the symbol of manifestation and becoming. So it is something that is moving sunwise and expanding and becoming. So it is, in a way, symbol of manifestation of the world in which we live. So it is the energy that emanates and produces the known world. And what is very interesting is that first, it is in the circle, and second, there is a still point in the middle. And that still point in the middle is the stillness inside of the turning world. So the world, with all of its passions and all of this events and comings and goings, is swirling in that energy of emanation, but there is a still point in the middle that never changes. So that swastika moves around the still point. The still point is always there. And we talked before about the point. This is the origin of everything. That is always still, it's always there. It's not turning with the passions of the world or comings and goings. It is, it's sort of called calmness in the middle of the changing world around us. And the ring around swastika, as I mentioned, means the boundary of the known world. It's also called ring past knot. So it is not the boundary of the all. This is boundary of a known world by us. But beyond that boundary, there is more, whatever it is from the first principle, we can't understand what is there, but that's the boundary beyond which we are not able to perceive. And as I've mentioned, that very first quote, the symbols are the little keyholes through which we can see outside of time and space. So it gives us that feeling of, and what is beyond that boundary, but we cannot know. Now we know that the symbol of swastika was adopted by Nazis, and that was a very unfortunate event when the symbol was basically tarnished, and till today holds the negative side of what it was used for. I believe it was the Hitler himself who was actually frequenting some Tibetan monks, I think it was Bon Po, where he adopted the symbol, and he adopted also some practices that he turned into the basically dark side and used against humanity. Now, what also Nazis did, they turned the swastika opposite direction. So the swastika that is used as a symbol in Hinduism and in the Sanskrit is turning sunwise. He turned it opposite direction, and it is sort of perceived that swastika turned opposite direction is evil. Well, actually, it is not evil, but swastika turned opposite direction means energy turning opposite direction. And when the energy turning opposite direction, it's simply winding down the creative energy and coming to the end. So if we talk about the existence not as good and evil, and if we don't go into the duality in it, there is just expansion, and that's the swastika going clockwise. This is emanation of energy, emanation of existence becoming. And turned the other direction is the emanation of closing of creation. It's coming back. It's end of the creative expanding energy. It's the cycle of contraction and coming to the end. And as we know from the cycles, that's what everything is. It's the cycle of expansion and contraction on both a human level and on level of all existence, the manvantaras. So this is the swastika, and when you look at the swastika again, try to see in it all of these aspects: the circle, the boundary of known, the still point in the middle that does not turn with the passions of the world, and the movement of expansion, emanation of life, and the meaning of it is well-being, wellness. So it's basically turning of the world. Now we'll go to the next symbol, and the next symbol is the snake swallowing its own tail. The snake swallowing its own tail is a symbol, again, in many different traditions. And one of these traditions is Gnostic Christianity. And what the name Gnostics gave to the snake swallowing its own tail is Ouroboros. Again, snake swallowing its own tail is a circle. So again, we return to the symbol of the circle. It swallows its own tail and encircles the known reality. And what is interesting, that's something that the student never paid attention to, the snake swallowing its own tail passes through swastika. So it actually goes through it. So it's not outside of the whirling world and the energy of emanation. So there is a omnipresent Om. There is the turning wheel of life. I also like to call it maybe a wheel of life. And that wheel of life encircled into the snake swallowing its own tail, or Ouroboros. So all of the emanations of life and all of the comings and goings are encircled by Ouroboros inside of that boundary. So it's definitely, when we look at the symbol of snake, snake also exists in all cultures and religions. in Christianity, a snake is the one that tempted the Eve in the Garden of Eden. You could call in Christianity the snake was definitely evil, but at the same time, one cannot deny that snake was wise. It knew what it's doing. So there was some wisdom of good and evil that snake possessed, and she wanted Eve to have that. When you look at the snake in Hinduism, snake represents wisdom and positive qualities. So there are Nagas, the wise man, who also have the name of the snake. Naga is the snake. What snake definitely also represents is shedding of its skin. Snake sheds skin and grows new skin. So it is a creature that is very wise and that able to regenerate. So the symbology of the snake is the regeneration through cycles. And when we look at the wisdom of the snake, it is our evolution throughout the cycles. So in a way, we're enclosed in the cycle of evolution that has this swirling energy of swastika, of well-being, of expansion. And in that cycle of evolution, we are born and die and born again. And this is the principle of reincarnation, of evolution, and of cycles enclosed in that symbol. The next symbol that we see inside of the known boundary is two triangles. So there are two triangles, and one triangle is pointing up, and another triangle is pointing down. So the triangle that is pointing up represents spirit. The triangle that's pointing down represents matter. So when you join the two triangles, it is the spirit descending in matter. So it's the spiritual world and the material world joined into one. What is interesting is that these triangles have exactly 12 sides. And this is also very symbolic of different traditions. There is 12 months, there are 12 signs of zodiac, there are 12 disciples, there are 12 tribes of Israel. There's probably many more 12 things in other traditions that I may not know of. But there is total 12. And the triangle that is pointing up, the spirit, the sides of it, there is a different attribution in different traditions. In the Neoplatonism, in the Masonic tradition, there is beauty, wisdom, and strength. So there are three sides to the triangle. That is beauty, wisdom, and strength. In Christianity, this is the Trinity, the God Father, the God Son, and the Holy Spirit. And when we go to the triangle that represents matter, the three sides of the triangle basically are the three gunas. There is tamas, the inertia, there is rajas, activity, and there is sattva, the harmony. And the two are joined into one. The next symbol that lives within the triangle, so it lives within the cycles of reincarnation, cycles of the manvantaras, in the boundary of universe, within the matter, that within the spirit that descended matter, there is a cross with the circle, also called Ankh. Probably bigger. I draw it even more to resemble a human. But Ankh is basically, you can see here, it's a cross and there is a little handle on top. So there's also a very interesting symbology behind the Ankh. Ankh is an ancient Egyptian sign as well. And Ankh consists of two things. There is Tau, the T. So this is one part of Ankh, the Tau, and the circle, the second part of the Ankh. So there's one, and there is two. What is interesting that in architecture, and this is also something that was preserved by the Freemasons, Tau is the fundamental building block. So things that build on T. So this is like one of the fundamental principles of geometry in architecture. And then there is a circle, and we already talked about the circle. It has symbology of its own. One of the most beautiful descriptions of Ankh that I've seen is that it is a handle on the cross. So when we look at the cross, we talked about it. Cross is a human. Cross is material. So this is matter. And circle is the more spiritual. It is more boundary over spiritual manifestation. So it is spiritual sitting on top of the human. It's the uniting of the two. And it was in the Egyptian tradition that Ankh represented. If you have the Ankh, and it was not just a symbol, you had to embody the Ankh in you. And embodying Ankh meant you have a handle on life. So you united spirit and matter, and you have a total balance. That you have a handle, you're almost holding that cross by the handle. You have a handle on life. You're able to live in harmony and in balance because you balance two, the T of the matter or the cross of the matter and the circle of the spirit. And basically the representation in the Theosophical seal, this is basically a human. This is us. In our own unity of spiritual matter, inside of the spirit descending in the matter, within the circle of manifestation that is spun by the swastika of emanation and under the one arm. Now we come to the very last symbol. This is the seventh symbol. There is no religion higher than truth. There is if you look into the Sanskrit words and you examine each word of what it means, like when we read it, we basically understand that there is no religion. There are many religions that we have, but there is no religion that can put itself above the truth. When you examine it word by word in Sanskrit, it basically says religion is a word, I think it's a dharma, that can be replaced with doctrine, dogma, firm, something that is definable. So basically religion is also basically something firm, something that has mass and is firm. So the words are more going as follows. There is nothing firm that is higher than truth. So if you look at the deeper definition of this, there is nothing defined, nothing explained by the man in any dogma or any doctrine, in any religion. There's no idea that became firm that can override the truth. And that truth is in a way as unknown as ours. It is just there. It is. So us trying to understand, explain, define that truth often results in creation of religions or doctrines. That's the way our mind functions in explaining the ultimate. But the truth always higher than any understanding we have that we can put in a format of religion or a doctrine that we as humans able to convey to each other. So those are the seven symbols of the seal, and I'm sure there is many more meanings to that. And as the very first saying says, that our understanding of the symbol depends on our level of knowing. And I mean more deeper knowing, not just the reading and having the superficial knowledge of each part of the symbol. It is a deeper knowing when you look at the symbol You simply know what the truth is. Now we'll stop here in case there's any questions.
Just a quick question. I see that the theosophical symbol, you guys is what you have, it's a picture of it, from somewhere probably, right? I just never noticed this before. The symbol right here is different.
I noticed that we do not have arm here.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
we don't have what pointing upward is black, pointing downward is, that's the.
This
Yeah.
one probably maybe my printer.
No, well, I don't know.
Like, I don't know.
Maybe it's just the way the angle is
Yeah.
looked at it from. But I think that's right.
Yeah, that one on colors. I read about the colors. They actually, it comes in the color of blue. And there was a gradation of blue from light blue to the dark blue. But I couldn't print it in the color, so I don't know why it is this way. Interesting.
And my space is here. I see a point in her on just this. I don't see that.
Which point?
This.
Ah,
This.
Oh, yeah.
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 What difference?
yeah, there are some differences. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder,
Well, again, the point would mean more of an origin, that this is the starting point. And that's very actually interesting, the point. Because if you add the point,
Yes.
it has this is the origin. So us is that one point that is this point.
I wanna make the comment before the term, there is no religion higher than truth, which is a very profound statement.
Mhm.
To say, like, if we, it's a very high postulate, but it could also be, if we reflect on what that's saying, in modern day times, we're living really dangerous times, because in modern day times, there is this, with the internet, there is this age of misinformation, fake
Mhm.
news, the term gaslighting, which is being used nowadays, where there is like attempts at individual levels or family level or countrywide or even global level to try to distort the truth in order to manipulate individuals.
Mhm.
And that's like so it's like a direct threat. Which would be the opposite of that saying.
Mhm. Mhm.
How dangerous it is to like try to twist the truth in order to get secondary gains and things like that.
Mhm. This is very interesting because sometimes, like even when the student struggles to see what's truth, what is not truth, just try to step away from duality altogether, because any duality is already not truth. So the truth has no duality in it; it basically encompasses all. So when you start seeing any duality in any information, you already know that it is this or that. That it's a step away from unity. But unity does not have duality. But the moment we see anything from weather, news to politics and duality, we are not in unity.
About the symbol, from could it be considered? Obviously, the founders of Theosophy, they carefully designed this symbol to represent Theosophy. Would it be considered to be targeted towards the collective unconscious, like beyond the intellect?
Definitely, because it's a symbol. I don't know much about the history, how it was created, but it does encompasses many important symbols that we hold in our consciousness as humanity. That's why I talk a little bit about the circle, the point, the snake, the cross. They're all there.
The combination, it's very unique. Yeah.
It's very unique. And unfortunate when people see it, they always say, "What is swastika doing here?" Always. Yeah, always. And then you have to give a talk what swastika used to be. And because we misrepresented it, it didn't change the swastika, it just changed us.
well, I wonder if Anybody was doing when he took
Maybe.
He knew so much about the symbols that, I never had heard that explanation that you gave with the switching of
It makes sense because if you put something opposite, if this is expansion, this will be contraction.
Yeah.
So I read a while ago about the Hitler's connection to Bonpo monastery in Tibet, and that he actually was studying under Bonpo. I don't know how much of this is true or not true, but he definitely got it somewhere. He did not invent it, so I don't know if anybody knows more about it.
He was into occult sciences. He
Yeah.
was, that's legit. He was obsessed with finding occultism objects for his political, for the Nazi party and the movement and all that. Yeah. So it's that keeps it like a bad name. It changes. It's the same thing as the short mustache underneath the nose. Charles Chaplin had that mustache in comedy, and people would see anyone who had that shade that way, would evoke like laughter. Comedy, really.
Yeah.
A comedian had it in the 1920s, before Hitler. Hitler starts sporting that mustache, and no man in modern day can shave like that and not get really bad repercussions with people. It's just, the meaning can change that easily, just because from a humorous comedian to a genocidal dictator, that alone can flip. Adolf, also the name Adolf was very popular before Hitler's time. It was common for boys to be named Adolf. Once this guy becomes famous, that name in hospitals, it started to dwindle down. Like really, it's kind of rare for any man to be called Adolf in modern day. So symbols change over time, for the better or for worse.
Or I would say probably symbols stay the same. Our understanding and misuse of symbols change. The symbols are symbols, but we often use the symbols for the wrong reasons because we don't understand them. Similar, like the two of the notorious misuses of symbols. One is use of Nazis of swastika, and the other one is use of the cross by Ku Klux Klan. Similar idea that they Ku Klux Klan. They use the cross. So they took a symbol that means something very different and they misused for their purpose. It didn't stick so much to the cross, but the use of swastika by Nazis definitely stuck to it. That it will take us probably many generations till swastika will mean well-being again. But that cautions us again not to create religion out of symbols. The truth of symbols is greater than and religion again. The word used here is it can be religion, can be doctrine, can be dogma, basically human-made idea. So use of symbols for human-made ideas should never contradict with the truth. And or those of us who are studying theosophy should always know that the truth is above all of these ideas.
And there is no limit, but it's interesting how much you can say in a symbol.
And also, I just now, when I looked again at the symbol, I thought, okay, so all of this is encircled in the manifestation, but not the truth. It's outside.
Oh.
I just now realized, I didn't think about it, that everything is inside. The truth is outside. Truth is everywhere. The ultimate truth is.
Yeah, but the truth is also there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could also put this inside of the circle.
Yeah,
we
can't. Again, you can't visualize anything that doesn't have borders. But that's the first fundamental says that we can't visualize that.
Yeah, that's why the circle is such a loved symbol by everyone, that from the paganism to everyone else, put a boundary around yourself, about your known world, about your understanding of the world. So.
Cuneiform language, which predates like modern day symbols using letters to understand languages in modern day world. You think there may be some relation to all the way to that?
Well, the challenge here, the biggest challenge is with our understanding of Sanskrit, because it is so different from any other language that when we try to translate the symbols in Sanskrit, we're not really close. Like when I was reading the explanation of Om or of there is no religion higher than truth, because that was also written in Sanskrit. Each word, or even swastika, each word has so many different meanings and meanings for the concepts that we don't even have. So that's why those who can translate it probably able to dive much deeper into understanding, because literally it's almost like without knowledge of Sanskrit, it's almost like being flat, being one-dimensional. You're just in that dimension, but you don't see the entire construct of that symbol.
But we have a Marxist language here with the Sanskrit is a spiritual kind of language. And I said that we'll eventually go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
To Sanskrit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, very,
Somebody
very.
speak Finnish?
Can you elaborate more on the Egyptian cross, the esoteric meaning of that?
The Egyptian cross, the Ankh.
Yeah.
Ankh was basically same as the two triangles. The two triangles is the descent of spirit in the matter on universal level, and the cross was the descent of spirit into the matter in us as a human, that we embody both the spirit and matter. And the lower part, the tau, the T, is the matter, that this is on which everything stands. And the circle is the spiritual side of us, that basically the handle or the head of that cross that drives everything. So it's the lower and the higher the side of us. So it's the two parts of us: the material, the lower, and the spiritual, the higher. The triangle and the square. So you in theosophical terms, you can also explain it this way, but it's a merge of spiritual on top of the material, that you really cannot exist just as a T, because that will die. So you can, to make it more theosophical, let's do the following. Yeah.
Okay.
That would make sense. Yeah, the lower quadrant and the higher.
True.
Yeah. So, and this is what will exist forever. So that's what the art is. It's us with both. So that's the understanding I have at this point. There may be a point that will be a deeper understanding. And so we are in the middle of all of the cycles. So this is such a beautiful symbol once you start diving deeper in it.
It's amazing what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, kids' school, we had here two students from the kids' school said what it meant, what all it meant, but of course it ain't what it is. It's deep as you did it. But it says the same thing, is that you say so much, you can say so much in a little, in a book, you can't even say that much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that symbol means so much. Like I was trying to explain it, and it still wasn't clear. And when I drew the triangle, that's it, because we know what it means. The lower quadrant and the upper triangle.
Is that the first one?
Yeah, they will know what it means. Now, somebody who doesn't know what it means probably looks and says, still not clear, but you need to know the symbology of the lower quadrant and the upper triangle.
Right.
Yeah. But the one thing that stands out most to me today. I've seen this symbol for more than 20 years, but I'm giving it more thought and meditation on it than ever that I give the talk. But it's the position of the eternal movement, the swastika symbol, exactly between the head and the tail of the serpent. That to me, was like it makes me reflect on the native. Always the head, I perceive the head as the beginning of life and the tail as the end of life. But the snake biting itself on the Ouroboros symbol is like eternity.
Like eternity.
Eternally.
Leave me alone.
And then to have the swastika exactly in between is very, very key point, very precise, and
But
very thought-provoking.
it could have gone here and past the swastika, but swastika is yeah. For me, the biggest takeaway was the point in the swastika. As the world is swirling away, you can choose to be in the point. Like you don't have to be swirling away with it's like eye of the hurricane.
I also see a parallel between the own position above everything. I see it also with the concept of Keter in Kabbalah, like the Ein Sof Our, like the highest spheres of spirituality at the top of the tree of life. I see a similarity in all the symbology lies below, but there's this super high ethereal kind of level of spirituality on the top. So it's really very, very, very comfortable with me.
So it's, for you, it was the snake going through the swastika. For me, it was the point in the swastika. I would like to ask for other takeaways. What others related to in the symbology? What was this symbol that you felt most affinity or understood the most, or?
Well, I think this snake biting his tail. But I never noticed what you pointed out, that we have this swastika right in the middle.
Wow.
And the other symbol that came to mind when you look at the cross, and that basically signifies matter or a human. I always picture the Leonardo da Vinci's man picture that is in cross. Yeah, he knew something. He knew something, the old Leonardo.
Oh.
But it always is.
There's a similar, the two triangles have also been addressed in Rosicrucian traditions. And as above, so below would be another interpretation of that. And yeah, the intersection between spirituality and material kind of both things go hand in hand in many ways.
Yeah.
Two sides of the coin.
I read about the two triangles. It was Neoplatonism, it was the Pythagoreans, and it was in the Theosophy, but there was different traditions that had very similar. It was in also in Kabbalah. Yeah, Kabbalah. So there's 12, and there's 12 paths.
From physics, I also got into a parallel to physics, fission and fusion.
Yin and yang.
One in the inwards, one in the outwards. Yeah, the Oppenheimer movie about him made recently addresses how those two opposite forces collide often and intersect. And I think the symbol also pushes into that duality.
So then it being true that is in every atom, it's in us and world.
The other interesting thing that I don't know the answer, but I just noticed it, that all of the points of the triangles touch the snake. It could be just in the middle, but they're touching the snake. Yeah, they're very. They are the structure.
But to
Do you,
Christian, it takes out the drawing, the devil is not part of Christianity, you know, I understand
Mhm.
it. Because when you take that out, then you don't have it, like you said, you can't imagine something if the other side is up there.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, the duality of the other side. Yeah, there was a question online.
Yeah.
yeah, do you think it's possible as we, collectively evolve in the future that our language will turn more towards sort of like symbols or ideographs and away from letters because the symbol contains so much information?
Well, this is one of the things that showed up in the readings about the Pythagoras, that he was attempting to have the language of symbols, of geometry and numbers. And he was basically describing that everything is a vibration defined by a number and the shape. And that those were pure symbols. I'm sure among us those who understand them, I'm not the one. But it's not, I think, a matter of becoming. It's, I think, more matter of remembering what he was teaching.
Yeah, I mean, mathematics is kind of a language of symbols,
Mhm.
but the seal has so much symbolism, so much depth, so many layers to it. Just
Mhm.
wondered if our language will kind of evolve with us. I guess it makes sense that it might.
Yeah, well, this prompted this thinking sort of outside of our topic in Theosophy, but I always wonder, will the language of the future will be the language models of the AI? Because they don't communicate in words, they, yeah,
It's symbols.
symbols. And they're reading the symbols that most of us don't know. Mhm.
There was I believe two computers developed a language and got shut down because of worries from
Mhm.
the developers about what was going to develop out of that.
Mhm. So that could be the future of symbols.
Speaking of evolution of symbols, should we evolve to taking a break?
Yes, that's about it. Yeah, we're at
We're
12 or
going
5.
to go potentially yoga algorithms after about 10 minutes.
Yes.